Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vista Sports Page podcast. I'm Trevor Stone, and I got my guest, the distinguished co-host of the most popular radio show on U Central's radio station, 99.3 FM U Central Radio, The Lunch Show. And today, Jonathan is joining me, and we're going to talk a little bit about recruiting in the football scene. Jonathan, we had 16 all-conference players last year. About half of them departed. How is Bobeck and the rest of his staff kind of, filling out the roster and kind of getting ready for next year?
Well, you can tell that the staff definitely thinks that it can make a run at the crown next year, because in the early signing period last month they signed 9 players, all of which were junior college transfers. And usually when you bring in that many junior college transfers at one time, you're trying to fill some holes immediately, in hopes to still continue your recent success. As far as the losses go, they took a big hit on the defensive side of the ball, especially along the defensive line. I believe 4 or 5 defensive ends graduated. So their early focus was on the defensive front. They signed 4 linemen, 3 of which I believe can play the end spot. And then one of them, Corey Brown Jr. from Arizona Western, is a big man, 6'3", 320 pounds. Had over 50 offers, I believe, some from some smaller D1 schools, and I think he's a guy that can come in there and provide that size that they missed last year with Carson Smith having to give up football due to injuries. And then they also bolstered their receiving core. They do lose UAB transfer Ronald Turner Jr. As well as Caden Mendenhall. So they brought in 2 there to help. I guess. Get some experience on that side of the ball. They had to play a lot of young guys last year due to injuries. And then they brought in another running back, T.J. Roberts, 5'11", 210 pounds off from Mesa Community College. And he's a guy that's going to take Clay McKenzie's spot more than likely as your power back, as he's 210 pounds. He definitely has more speed than Clay does. Now, granted, Clay did have 2 ACL injuries, so. But I mean, all in all, it's been a pretty solid haul so far for Coach Bobeck and his staff. And
with UCO, they've been to bowl games back-to-back seasons. Do you think they're going to be able to take the step up with this recruiting, and with how they had a young team next year, and they're going to age over the offseason and then going into next year? Do you think they'll be ready and bolstered to make maybe a run at the actual playoffs, at the conference tournament?
I think if health holds up, I believe they can. I mean, if you look at last season. With 3 different quarterbacks starting, all 3 won them games. You look, Keats was the day 1 starter. Actually played pretty impressive, given the youth around him early, and he unfortunately was lost for the season with the injury. And so then Chandler Garrett, he comes in against Fort Hays, not against Fort Hays, against Lindenwood, and kind of has a rough outing. Makes his first start against number 4 Northwest Missouri State, and then leads the upset. And then he, was solid, and then he goes down. And then it's Will Collins, the Louisiana at Monroe transfer, who comes in, starts the last, I believe, 7 games, and leads one of the greatest comebacks in school history in that thrilling bowl win over Angelo State. So whoever is at quarterback, there's good depth behind them. The offensive line has experience in only losing 1 starter in Noah Hammonds. The receiving core is back intact. They should have a healthy Elliott Curry, who was the go-to guy before his collarbone injury against Northwest Missouri State. They have 4 H-backs, all quality. 2 of them were all conference guys, and Dante McGee and Marshall Tolson. And then at running back, there's good depth there. You have Justin Curry, who was a good speed back for us. We'll have Bruce White back from injury. Again, you have T.J. Roberts now in the fold, along with some red shirts, most notably Peyton Scott from Sand Springs, who was the Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year last year at Sand Springs. And then defensively, the tackle spot is deep. The end, if the JUCOs can come in there and some young guys step up, there's solid linebackers. There was an 8-man rotation. You only lose 3, so you got 5 back. They brought in another JUCO, so you have 6 for all intended purposes. And a safety, to me, you have 2 of the best in the conference. And O'Shea Harris, who was a second-team All-American this past season, and then Jakari Hunt, who was also an All-Conference guy. So to me, if they can find those corners, I think one of them will probably be Kobe Underwood, who had a pretty good end to last year as a redshirt freshman. If you can find somebody to go with him and the health stays up, I think this team can seriously make a run. You saw last year a lot of young guys got experience, whether or not that was the plan or not. So I think that'll pay dividends more this year.
That's a great point, man. So you thinking And I mean, strong suit for UCO has always been their running backs. They've had 4 running backs all 4 of my years. Mm-hmm. And do you think that, I mean, with this run into the championship, do you really think, are we talking championship? Because, I mean, that sounds a little bit like the Ohio State situation a few years back where they could plug in anybody. They went through 3 straight quarterbacks and still won and nobody can stop them. Do you think our aspirations should be that high? Or do you think just, making the actual conference tournament should be, the early hopes for fans and for people who are close to the tournament and have, a bit of a stake in the process and the progress of the team?
I think 8 wins should be a reasonable goal. I think if they stay healthy, get a few breaks, realistically, I can see this as a 9-win team. 10-win, I think, might be a tad bit steep, just depending on how early the new pieces on defense gel. But I think if they can break into that 9-win category, they definitely have a chance to finish in the top 3 in the conference. If you finish in the top 3 in the conference, you have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. I think their problem is this past year we finished 4th, and then last year they finished, I think, tied for 3rd. So you can get in that top 3. You should be able to have at least a chance to get an at-large bid in the playoffs. But worst case, I think you would see a 3rd straight bowl game.
Okay. And so the spring game, it should be coming up soon. Do you know the exact date or at least the month when it will be happening?
Not yet. I'm assuming more of the information will come out after signing day.
I mean, at the very least, we can expect to see some high competition. We have depth on both sides of the field for the Broncos. And whenever that game is, whenever we get the exact date, I'll be sure to get that to y'all. Thank y'all so much for joining us this week on this Vista Sports Page podcast. I'm Trevor Stone, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you.